So welcome to this next episode of this short series about how bags are being made. Today we're talking about fabrics, and with me again is Roy. Explain a little bit about fabrics, and consider me someone who has no clue about fabrics. So,
have you ever heard of like 600D or 900D when you're looking through the spec sheet?
Exactly. Yeah, that's basically one of the number that's very bold and that sits on top of every spec sheet.
In those spec sheets, there's actually two information. One is the thickness of the thread. So that's the part we call denier, how much material they use in one thread. And then the other one is the name of the material, like polyester, nylon, cordura. So there's two information in that spec sheet number.
Okay.
So what do you need to know about denier? So in terms of it's a thickness of a fiber, and you can see here that there's from like 30 to 3,000 in industry range.
Maybe just as a reference point, what's the denier of yarn that's being used in t-shirts, for instance?
Oh, so t-shirts or for example linens, they are much more on the lighter side. It's below 100D, and then whatever that's above 100D is used mostly in textile.
I see.
If you have less amount, like less thickness, also that means that's less amount of materials in that thickness. So you can assume that if the number of D is low, it's light.
Yeah.
So it's basically the lower of the number D, it shows that how light the fabric is and also how low the tensile strength will be. It's a rough idea.
Okay, and tensile strength is the strength how much weight it can load. So in this direction. So if you pull
both sides of the fabric,
that's tensile strength,
yes,
right? And tear strength is obviously when you rip something apart.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
So there's the tensile strength where actually it's how heavy the fabric can withstand. So the load.
Okay. So what you can put into the bag is tensile strength.
So you can roughly determine how well your bag will perform by looking at the thickness of the material being used.
Okay.
Let's go into more about how much tensile strength do you actually need wearing it for everyday backpack use. For everyday use, I'm sure we just say roughly 100 kilogram in the industry standard. Most people will not put 100 kilogram loads in a backpack.
Of course, yeah, that's true.
But when you jump or when you fall off or something, gravity,
forces, and
extra forces will exert on your backpack. Therefore, you won't have extra room of strength, not just the bare minimum amount that holds.
Do you happen to know, I'm not a physicist, but imagine I have like 10 kilo in my backpack and I jump up and down. How much force is created and therefore how much load this is then on the bag?
Approximately, since I don't know how much you can jump, so it really determines on how high you jump and how much acceleration you're getting not just from gravity.
So I mean like running.
So everyday usage, you probably will not have anything more than 50 or 60 kilogram load, even with 10 kilo inside.
Oh, okay. So 10 kilo inside, I'm running, which would then probably be like 50 kilo load due to the forces jumping up and down inside the bag, right?
It's not even, depends on situation and how much hard intensive you the movement. But if you have extra room for 50 or 60 kilogram, it will not have much of a problem.
Okay, I see.
But let's say you're kind of falling off from some, like say, motorcycle or something, has more force from those machines. So definitely 100 kilogram is one standard for everyday use.
Okay. Bottom line, if a normal person has 10 kilograms in his or her bag and he or she is running, it will never exceed 100 kilogram of force, right? Of load, right?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
So basically, we always have extra room of load capacity just in case.
Yeah.
And the only best way to check is actually what we did there, where we actually put the load, do some stress testing, and usually not the main fabric, but actually like shoulder straps or the handles tear apart more frequently than the main fabric.
But that's very important to know for us as consumers, because whenever I saw like can withstand 250 kilogram or whatever number of load, I'm always saying, hey, who the hell is able to actually carry 250 kilograms around in his or her backpack? But now how you explain it in terms of force that is being created due to jumping out stuff, okay, that makes more sense to me now.
So how do we make this twisted ballistic fabric, and what's the difference from normal like polyester and fabrics? A typical ballistic twisted fabric, let's say 1680D, and there's ballistic, and there's sometimes just 1680D nylon, let's just say. What's same is just the thickness. So 1680D only explains that it's the same thickness between this and this. It doesn't say what's the structure in the yarn, how is it made.
Okay.
So what's cool about the ballistic nylon is actually it's made from 4 different 420D, where they actually twist each other
to create the 1680D thickness.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's actually a quarter of a thickness each that they actually twist each other to make a stronger structure rather than having one thick 1680D nylon fiber.
And this is only noticeable, visible, feelable in a microscopic way, or can you actually feel, if you have both yarns in your fingers, can you feel the twistiness of the ballistic nylon?
I would say if you really like in the industry for a long time, you see many fabrics, you can tell. However, most people will need like a microscopic lens or something to look at the structure to find whether it's actually ballistic or not.
Would you say that since it is 4 times the 420D material, does this mean that ballistic is also 4 times stronger than the normal version?
That's not true.
Okay.
It doesn't add up linearly.
Okay.
It is definitely stronger,
okay.
But it does not add up linearly.
So going back to tensile strength and tear strength, does a higher tensile strength mean that the material is stiffer? Because it's not that it's more durable in terms of pulling it apart. Does that also then mean that it's not as flexible? The higher the tensile strength, the stiffer the material, or?
Yes, so it tends to be stiffer, but there's always exceptions.
Okay.
So what they sometimes do is, for example, nylon 6/6 is also strong in tensile, but they also made it more have more tenacity inside, so it can stretch a bit more.
Okay.
But in terms of hand feel really depends on how it's been woven. But the weaving process determines more of the hand feel. It's more about the material's properties and how it's been woven. And obviously the thickness matters, but more so how it's woven and the materials determines the property.
Okay.
Typically, even though you weave nylon into a normal plain weave, and then you have a ripstop weave, then you definitely feel the difference. Oh, this is ripstop and this is normal nylon. So it's kind of like the weaving process has more determining factor compared to these two for the hand feel.
Okay, I see. That's a lot of good information. And I mean, yeah, bottom line is that those numbers that we see only like determine not necessarily the quality, right? But more or less what we can learn from these numbers that we see in spec sheets. It's basically how heavy something is and potentially how much load we can expose the bag to, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you want something really light but still durable, try to look somewhere around 600D. But if you want really durable, then go above 1000 denier fabrics. And also try to find if it's a twisted or Cordura. And if you want to have really like superb fabric that's super light and super durable, well, that'll be a military standard, specially twisted ballistic fabrics.
That was a lot of information, and honestly, I learned a lot. Thank you very much. And yeah, if you have any more questions about this or maybe some more comments, comment below and maybe Roy can answer those as well later on. And yeah, there are still a couple of more videos coming, so subscribe to the channel, click the little bell icon, and I hope to see you in the next videos. Thank you very much.